Hi, and welcome to another segment on how to live your best life with me, Dr. Paul Meschino. Thank you for joining me this month. You know, as a healthcare practitioner and a practicing chiropractor for over 30 years, I come across all sorts of reasons why people think they got ill or they got sick or they got a condition and or they got a health condition. And people are joining me. This is awesome. Thank you for joining me. So I come across three reasons why people think they got ill or they got sick. And I asked them, I say, why do you think you got ill? Why do you think you got sick? Why do you think you got this health condition? And inevitably, depending on, they can have many types of conditions, whether it be back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, or other chronic conditions such as, heart disease or arthritis or degeneration, or whether it be diabetes or whether it be high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and other chronic diseases. I come across them saying three main reasons why they got ill, they got sick, and that being they think they got sick because they inherited the condition. It's in their genes. You say, well, in my family, we all have bad knees, or we all have bad shoulders, or we all have bad hearts or stomachs or something. Or they say that it's age. I'm getting up there in age. This is what kind of comes with it. I just feel like, well, this is part of aging. This is the illness that comes with aging. Or they say that it's stress. I lived a stressful life, and my life is stressful, and it's catching up with me. And now all this stress is manifesting, and I got a health condition as a result. So I come across three major reasons or primary causes why people think they got ill or they got sick or they got a health condition. And that is it's due to their genes, it's due to aging, or it's due to stress. And I'm going to make a very bold statement here, and I'm going to say that those are myths. Those aren't the real causes of most of the chronic health conditions today. But people believe that is the primary cause of their problem. And I don't like people believing those myths because, number one, they're not true in most cases. And number two is that they will disempower you. If you believe that age creates it, or your genes you inherited, or that stress caused it, then you're more likely to just give up and kind of succumb to the disease or not seek help, and you become victim of the disease basically, or the condition. And so you kind of give up. You say, well, it's in my genes. Nothing I can do about it. I inherited the condition. That's all there is to it. Or I'm getting older, and this is what happens. Or my life is stressful. I can't. I got to deal with a lot of things, and this is just what happens. So we kind of like succumb to the disease or succumb to the condition or health problem, and we think it's our lot in life. But I'm going to say that it's not your lot in life, and I'll explain why in a minute. In fact, I want to show you just how powerful you actually are, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these myths, I'm going to debunk them, replace them with the truth. And the truth will set you free. It will set you free from perhaps an old paradigm that you've been living that you're not even aware of, that's controlling your life. It also will set you free from perhaps actually getting a disease or preventing a condition or reversing a condition. Because many of the health problems that happen today can be reversed or even prevented by knowing this information. So I want to set the record straight on what actually causes disease and what doesn't cause disease. Okay? Because most people are really confused about this, to be honest with you. So tonight, I want to share with you very valuable information, very practical information that you can take into your life right away and start to apply it. So I want to start with each of these myths. I want to start with genes. Now, genes and inheritance is way overrated when it comes to disease creation or disease development. Okay? In fact, it's shown that your postal code matters more than your genetic code when it comes to the origin of disease. See, they do these twin studies. What does that mean? It means they take twins who are from birth, who are adopted into different families, have different adopted families, and they follow them through the ages, right? And what they predicted was that because they came from the same gene pool, the same genetic family, that they would be getting certain chronic illnesses and diseases associated with those genes. But as they follow them throughout the years, what they find is completely different. they find that those twins, as they age, are more predisposed to get the diseases of their adopted family rather than their genetic family. Okay, so what scientists are now understanding is that there are other factors that are involved with these children getting a disease rather than just their genetics that are just as important, if not more important, than their genes. Things like the environment they grew up in, okay? The lifestyle that they had, whether it be active or sedentary, the diet they had, etc. Their social interactions with their family or with their community at large, how they managed that, how they handled that, what it was like, and their personal psychology, their thoughts, their emotions inside themselves. These factors played just as important role, if not more of an important role in determining what diseases they got than their genetics. So scientists conclude that we're more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, or than what we once thought we were. And we're not a victim of our genes. That's crucial. In fact, we now know there's only very few conditions that are actually caused from our genes. Things like Down syndrome, Tay-Sachs disease, neurofibromatosis, Huntington's disease. These are all examples where genes are actually the cause of problems. And then there are other conditions which are more common that we think are related to genes, but they're only implicated in a small number of cases. For instance, we think breast cancer is highly genetic. We can get highly inherited. But in actuality, only 5 to 10% of breast cancer cases are related to a specific gene. The majority are not. Only 15% of ovarian cancers are related to a specific gene. The majority are not. Only 1% of high cholesterol cases are related to a specific gene. The majority are not. Only 27% of high blood pressure cases are related to a specific gene. 73% are not. Now, I'm not saying that genes don't, and your DNA doesn't have an impact on your health. It does. But in the majority of these chronic conditions I just described, they're not the primary cause of disease. And this is important because we used to think they were. In fact, we spent a lot of money, a lot of research defining the genetic code called the Human Genome Project. And that was completed in 2003, but it really made little difference on thwarting disease. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is awesome. More people are coming online. So it made very little difference on thwarting disease or preventing disease or reversing disease just by knowing the genetic code. See, we once thought that the DNA within us is like the brain of the body. It actually steered the development of the body and steered which diseases we got and which diseases we didn't get. That's how we thought it worked. But now we're finding out it doesn't work like that. It's kind of like playing a piano. It's kind of like a piano. If I had a piano here, all the keys we now know make up the genetic code. There's all the keys on the piano. We know that's the genetic code. But which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off, which notes are played and which ones aren't, comes from other factors. Yes? Things like your thoughts and emotions within you create a chemical cascade through your body, releasing hormones and neurotransmitters that actually penetrate into cells and actually tell which genes to turn on, which genes to turn off, which genes are going to be causing problems and which genes won't. So it actually influences which diseases you get just by what your thoughts are, what your emotions are in your body. Other factors do the same thing, such as your environment, the toxins in your environment, the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, your activity level, your lifestyle, also plays the piano, also influences which genes turn on, which genes turn off, which notes are hit and which ones aren't, and therefore determine which disease you get and which ones you don't. Your genetic code is just your genetic code, but what plays the genetic code is the key thing, and that's what's called epigenetics. It's beyond the genetic code into outside the genetic. And outside the genetics, or the influences I just described, have more an impact on disease creation than the genetic code itself. Okay, that's fine and dandy, but how does this play out in real life? What this means is that we're more powerful than we think. Sure, there are genes which predispose us to certain specific diseases, and you can get your DNA tested and your genes tested and find out which ones you're predisposed to. But ultimately, whether that gene becomes an overt disease or not depends on you, depends on how you live your life, depends on your environment, your lifestyle, your social interactions, and your personal psychology. That plays more of an important role, really, than what your genetic code shows. So I've seen people take this information and make very good use of it by concentrating on how they're living their life and make fundamental changes in that and be able to reverse conditions that we thought weren't reversible. I've seen cases where people reverse their osteoporosis, reverse their heart disease, get off cholesterol medication, get off high blood pressure medication. I see people even cure themselves of cancer. And I'll go through a true life story of that in a few minutes. So that's the first myth. Hopefully we debunked it and replaced it with the truth. The second myth is that age causes disease. And this is very common in that I come across as very common in my practice. I had a woman who presented to me not long ago who came in with foot pain. She had what's called plantar fasciitis. I don't know if you've ever had that, but it's a very painful condition. And she had orthotics made and stuff like that, and it wasn't really getting better. And she came and she just mentioned it to me besides her back pain. I go, well, what do you have? Plantar fasciitis. I said, well, how long have you had it for? She goes, well, 2 years. I go, 2 years? Well, why didn't you seek help? Well, I just thought it was just part of aging. I just thought that's what comes with being old. I say, that's nothing to do with age. You don't have to suffer like that. It's not necessary. Within 2 months, her plantar fasciitis was gone by me working on it. And this is not uncommon that people succumb to a lower standard of life, stiffness in their neck or their back. They realize they think that that's just how it is. When I'm getting older, this is what happens. Not necessarily. It's usually the case where that can be improved, even depending, it doesn't matter how old you are, right? In most cases. So the truth is that there is hey everybody, thanks for joining me. So the truth is that the aging there is an aging process to the body. We slowly deteriorate over time, it's true. But age itself does not cause disease. Understand that. It may predispose you to disease. It's a risk factor, but that's it. It's just a risk factor. It's like genetics. Your genes are just a risk factor. It doesn't mean you're going to have to get that disease or not. Same with aging. It's just a risk factor. So people, you don't have to succumb to the conditions of age, if you will. And you're not a victim of your genes. You're not a victim of your age. Okay? In fact, we now know that there are longevity hotspots located in certain locations throughout the world called blue zones. And in these blue zones, people live to be up to 100 years or more. They're centenarians. And these elderly folks suffer a fraction of the health conditions that we associate with age than their counterparts in non-blue zones. And they're not just living life like a low standard of life, they're living vital, active lives that go beyond our wildest imaginations. For instance, there's a gentleman in Loma Linda, California in his 90s who's still a practicing heart surgeon. And he still water skis and he still does construction projects around the house. My aunt, who's 99, going to turn 100 in a month, we're going to go up and celebrate with her, lives a vital and active life. She's still lawn bowls, she still dances, she has all her wits about her. She's not in some wheelchair, just crippled, just sitting there. She's actually living a vital, active life at 100. Now, the point is this, is that we all have the potential to live that, okay? And live that life. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to do that. And we'll talk about more of that in upcoming videos. So I want to talk about the third myth that I call the third myth, and that is that people believe that stress is harmful to their health. This is very important. Think about that. Do you believe that stress is harmful to your health? Because if you believe that stress is harmful to your health, guess what? It is. And if you believe that it isn't, guess what? It's not. Yes, there was a groundbreaking, astonishing, shocking study done in 1998 that shook up the scientific community and shook up the way we viewed stress, because we thought before stress was the ultimate cause of problems. But now we realize it's not. Get this. They took 33,000 Americans, then they asked them 2 questions. They asked them, how much stress do you have? And do you believe stress is harmful to your health? And then they followed them for 8 years and they scoured over the public records and they looked at the patterns of who actually passed away and who didn't. And what they found across the board was that those people who believed stress was bad for them actually died prematurely. It was irrelevant of the amount of stress they had. They could have high stress or low stress. It didn't matter. What mattered most was that they believed the stress was harmful to their health. And they did this study 8 years in a row. And they now estimate that over 180,000 Americans died prematurely just by believing stress is bad for them. That's 20,000 people a year. That's the 15th leading cause of death, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV/AIDS, and homicide. Experts now understand that it's not the stress that was killing those people, right? It's how they thought about the stress and how they responded to the stress that was actually causing the problems. So the truth is, stress is not killing people. Stress is not harmful. Stress is not going to cause disease. It's what you do with the stress that determines whether you get sick or not. Well, that's fine, Paul, but how do I apply this in real life? Well, I want you to understand one thing. This is an important thing to really comprehend. I just kind of came across this a long time ago. And that is, on a strictly cognitive or emotional level, nothing in your life has any meaning except the meaning you give it. So if you have stress in your life and you give it a detrimental meaning, it's bad for me, this is a bad situation, this is not going to be good, then guess what? It's going to have a detrimental effect on you, on your health, right? But if you take the same stress and you make it meaningful and valuable to you, asking things like, oh my God, well, how is this going to be good for me? How is this helping me to develop and become a different person or a different version of myself or be significantly important to me? Then guess what? It's not only not bad for you, the stress, but actually helps improve your health and can actually help you heal. And I want to share with you now a true life story of a friend of the family that we know of, that we have. I'm going to call him Bob. And Bob, back in 1991, he's a remarkable case here actually, was diagnosed with cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a kind of a cancer of the lymph nodes, white blood cells in the lymph nodes. And, the 5-year survival rate using chemo radiation is about 30%. But unfortunately, when Bob's diagnosis was made, he had stage 4. There is no stage 5. So they gave him less than 1% chance of survival, even if he did radiation and chemotherapy. So they basically said, it's not really worth it. You might just get your affairs in order and just go home. So Bob, as he told me this story and what happened to him, was the moment he was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 cancer, was the same period of time where his wife left him, his marriage fell apart, and his business went bankrupt. Now, for most people, that would be the end of their life. But Bob created a different meaning out of it. Bob thought, oh my God, this is phenomenal. He said, yeah, I have stage 4 cancer, but now my slate is clear. My life is clear. I have no responsibilities. I don't have to answer anybody when I go home, nobody through the day. I can just simply focus on one thing, my healing and my health. And so he thought he created a different interpretation of those tragedies that most people think would be tragedies in their life, different meaning altogether. He thought it was a gift, it was an opportunity to actually focus on his healing, because he saw other people that had responsibilities and had all these things going on while they were trying to fight cancer, didn't make it. But he had his slate in his life cleared so he could actually just focus on that. And guess what he did? He did the 4 things, or more than 4 things, but he focused on the 4 things about his life, and he changed everything about his life. He made a concerted effort to change the things I just talked about. He changed his environment. He got his own place, very focused, very designed so he would heal. Very nurturing, loving, supportive environment. He changed his lifestyle completely, became more active. He did exercises, he did breathing techniques, he did changed his diet dramatically, took supplementations, did a lot of research on all this kind of stuff. He changed his personal relationships. He changed his personal psychology. He did visualization, meditation. And he did this over a period of time, a long period of time. And as he got checkups, he realized that this cancer was going away, going away, going away. Eventually, it wasn't there. A dramatic change. And that was 28 years ago that he did this. And he's still alive, vital today, no cancer, no sign of cancer. Now, what this shows us is that it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it that counts. Now, not every case ends up like that, let's face facts. But you actually give yourself the greatest chance of healing when you take responsibility, you take empowerment back, and you focus on constructive choices and constructive changes in your lifestyle. Research by Kelly Turner on radical remissions, people who actually spontaneously got rid of their stage 4 cancer, did similar things that Bob did. And she goes through the research on that. So you provide a greater chance of healing when you do things like that. So when it comes to the cause of disease, it's more about you, how you live your life, what choices you make, your personal relationships, your environment, your lifestyle, your social relationships, as I said, your personal psychology, than it is about genes, age, and stress. Sure, genes, age, and stress are risk factors, but it doesn't mean it's inevitable that you're going to go down the road of that disease or that condition. You have more power than you think. And I'm hoping that after tonight you have greater appreciation for this understanding, and you'll be able to empower yourself to take more action on improving your lifestyle so that you can improve the conditions of your life and your health. That's what I want to share. Any questions at this point? I'm open to any questions. And if you're interested in, you want to make more of a concerted effort to make constructive changes to your life, I do that with people. I love to do that with people. So you can personal message me on Facebook if you want. You can call me at my office, 905-737-0810. You can catch other YouTube videos that I've created in the past on my YouTube channel, Live Your Best Life with me, Dr. Paul Meschino. So if you want to check that out, by all means, do that. If there are any further questions, I'm here for you right now. I'm just waiting if you're interested. I want to thank you for joining me. This is awesome. I'm glad everyone attended. And if there aren't any other questions for this, hopefully I got that point across. I'm hoping I did, and that you feel more empowered about what you can do with your life and how you can improve and either prevent disease or reverse it. That would be what I'm looking for to happen. So if there aren't any further questions, this is me, Dr. Paul Meschino, signing off, saying live your best life. Over and out. Thank you very much for attending. I will see you next month.